Today's date is the 15th of November 2013. My name is Ben Fielden, and this interview is for Ming-ai London Institute, British Chinese Workforce Heritage. Could I begin by asking your name?
Stephen Ng. Thank you.
Could you spell that for me?
My surname is NG, November Golf. NG and Stephen, S-T-P-H-E-N, Stephen, but my Chinese name is Luinam, L-U-I-N-A-M.
And when were you born and whereabouts?
Hong Kong, Year of the Dragon.
Could you tell me a little bit about your family?
It's a working class family, a very humble background. I was born at Sakimi at the hillside. We live in those wooden huts. And there was a huge fire in the Christmas of 1953. And we said we are reborn from the phoenix. It was that fire that began the building of the bungalows or the resettlement estates in Hong Kong. It's a chapter of the Hong Kong housing projects. So we are the first batch because of the huge fire. There were about some 35,000 people affected in the fire. So the government built some temporary bungalows on the site, and then later on made it into the 7-story old-style resettlement estate in each shape, where we don't have public toilet. We have public toilet, public bathroom, and we live in a cubicle about 120 square feet each with each family. So.
And that's where your family grew up?
There's many resettlement estate in Sakimi, in Kowloon. So, and my parents, they are working class people. They work very hard their life, and we got many brothers and sisters, and it's a huge family. But we're poor, we're struggling, but we are all very happy and a healthy childhood.
And could you tell me a little bit about your brothers and sisters?
My mother gave birth to 10 siblings, in which I'm the third. But the first and second they died prematurely, and another 2 didn't survive. So at the moment we got 6 siblings altogether, and I'm the third, but I'm the eldest at the moment. So my parents are both dead now. My mother died very young, at the age of about 40, and my father died at the age of about 80. So my father didn't remarry after the death of my mother. And I have another elder sister from my father in mainland China.
And what work did your mother and father do?
My father used to be a mobile hawker. He sold pepper and all those spices. So it was very difficult. In the 1950s, he started as a mobile hawker, trying to sell everyone mainly for pepper powder. And later on, he got to work at home to order the pepper from Malaysia, from China, Singapore, and then to grind it into powder and mix it with some of the flowers and then sell it. And on top of that, they also sell different spices and also sell those the cinnamon, all those spice stuff. And my mother used to be a housewife and later worked for the resettlement estate, as a cleaner, to clean in those public latrines and toilets. And it just happened my mother used to clean the toilets and the public latrine in the block where we live. Which later on, when I graduated from school, I became a housing officer, and I managed the same block where I live. So it's just a kind of coincidence.
And what education did you have?
I am an advocate of life learning, so I got a bachelor in Chinese language and literature from Hong Kong University. And later on, I got certificate in arts administration from City University and Hong Kong University, and got a MA Master in Arts Criticism from City University, London, and also got a PhD from SOAS in the last century.
And whenabouts did you come to the UK?
I first came as a visitor, and then later on I came to study for my master's degree at the city in 1988. And then at that time, the Tiananmen massacre, student movement, happened in the June 4th of 1989, and I was a student there. So I organized a demonstration outside the Chinese embassy for 100 days. And after I returned to Hong Kong, I resigned from my post as an arts manager from the government, and I come back again to England, and since 1990, and I stay in this country until now.
How were you able to make that transition out of China to the UK?
It's just by chance happening, because as you are aware, Hong Kong was a former British colony. When I was a student there, I am one of the student activists in anti-establishment, anti-colonialism, in supporting Chinese language to become the official language, and everything that you can think about being a young student doing it, kind of socialist. And I hate to be a government official, to work for the Hong Kong government as well, under a majority government. But although I did work as a civil servant for quite a long spell of time, and then after the 1989 massacre, and I just feel a bit not frustrated with politics, but I think my world should be much bigger and have enough of my life in Hong Kong of being a civil servant and stuck in my post for quite many 10 years. And I want to have a fresh start. I really aim to do my PhD in America, in those Ivy League colleges, in which I didn't get into there. So, and when I come back to visit my friends in UK and in 1990, it just happened. Then I've been an activist, and I've been offered a job, and I stay here and work, and I got a work permit to work here at that time, and after many years, although I got a indefinite leave to remain here, because it's much easier because I was born in Hong Kong, a British subject, but I still holding my Hong Kong passport. I didn't want to be a British citizen for many years, so I just struggled for many years to apply for my tourist visa to other countries, and after some 3, 4, 5 years, I think that's enough. Got a British passport doesn't mean that you're British or you're English, you're still Chinese, you're yellow. So I just got a naturalization and get a passport and the British citizenship, but I still think I'm a citizen of the world.
And what jobs did you do when you came to the UK?
I did a lot of jobs in Hong Kong, interesting one. When I first came here, I got a job as the principal worker at the Birmingham Chinese Community Centre. So I worked there for 1 year. And then I came down to London and got a job for Islington Chinese Association as an elderly worker to work for older Chinese people. But that was only a 10-hour per week job. But because being a first generation immigrant or first generation to come here, got very few friends and don't have much connection, and all my family live in Hong Kong. Although later on my brother-in-law is English, but brought me, but he still prefer to live in Hong Kong and in Far East, and live his whole life in Far East. So I don't have many relatives, no relative at all, and although there's an uncle and his family, so very much on my own. And I think Birmingham is a big city, the heart of England, very big. And some 20 odd years ago, I feel witnessness, and I feel London is where I'm more familiar. I got my friends, I've been studying here, and I got other activists here, and they're more happening in London all the time. So I decided to move down to London, although I'm offered a 10-hour job per week. So if I can meet the means the ends meet. So I very much prefer to do so. So I moved down to London after 1 year in Birmingham.
So when you moved to London, did you begin working at Islington Chinese Association from then? Or?
Yeah, from then I carry on working until now, more or less. And I work with Katie Bred, one of the founders of the Islington Chinese Association, and she's still here today. And together we built up the association, and we contribute all our lives. They've been working here since founding, some 27 years ago. I've been here at the association for some 23 years now. So together we're working for half a century at the Islington Chinese Association. And I managed to get more funding to increase my working hours from 10 hours to 17 and a half hours, and eventually for 35 hours. So I work mainly in the field for older Chinese people in that area. And after many years working at Islington, at about 2003, I think I should do more for the community, and I need more inspiration. So I left the association to work as a journalist, working for the Sindao newspaper to about 2.5 years. And then I moved to the Chinese Travel Services to work as a travel agent and exhibition organizer for about a year. But at that time, during the 4 years, I still attached with the association. I became the trustee and chairman of the Islington Chinese Association. And after I left Chinese Travel Services in about 2007 or 2008, something like that, and I became a volunteer with the association for a couple of years. And later on, there's some part-time job opportunity. I became working at part-time and also as an honorary secretary of the association. So I'm mainly now working as a part-time base and volunteer basis, and jack of all trades, everything. I'm really a caretaker of the association.
And what were your experiences in journalism like?
In what?
Journalism. You said you worked for the Sindao.
Yeah. It's the only national Chinese newspaper in this country. It's not a free newspaper, so they are better established than most of the other newspapers. And actually, they're the only one, European one, and it's an international newspaper started in Hong Kong, so it's still got their mother community. So I've been able to meet more people and attend more political or national events, just like when the Chinese Premier, they come to visit here and I come to interview them. And at that time, I got the opportunity to go and do interviews inside the Chinese embassy, in which I used to protest outside every year during the June 4th anniversary. So those feelings are quite strange for those people who work inside and for me. And although I did it as a professional journalist, and I'm mainly engaged in writing in-depth articles, and because I don't like taking pictures, so I'm probably the photographer without a good camera, and I don't know Chinese typing, so it's always handicapped when I go overseas and try to do instant reportage. I have to fax back the written article and someone to type it for me and to post it. So indeed not an all-round journalist, not a contemporary journalist. I'm more a writer or writing journalist, whatever. So, but it gives me more exposure to know the people, and people know me and know give the opportunity to travel here and there, overseas and all over in UK, and meet many people. And also because of my background, working with a community, it helped both the community and my career, and to make contact with most of the community leaders, and also with many the CEO, the head people of the establishments, and also meeting other government officials, and also given opportunity to go to different functions and events and press conferences. And so it give me better overview of the community, making different people, Chinese and non-Chinese, and especially although we're working for the Chinese newspaper, we are a national one, so we go to all kind of functions, and also because of my political engagement, I started the Chinese for Labour in 1998 with Katie Blair and Ming-ai, another Chinese from Malaysia, who was the first Chinese councillor in this country, I think, and I've been working for 16 years as a councillor. Still, at this moment, the longest serving Chinese councillor. So we started Chinese for Labour, and to promote the Chinese to become more active in the political arena and in their civil duties and responsibilities. So I tried to do a lot of things within this span of years.
And what was it that made you want to move back to Islington Chinese Association then?
I think to a certain degree it's the attachment, because you need to have a platform, you need to have somewhere that you can contribute what you want to do. And because I know the organization inside out, I've been working a long time in that, I've been a trustee, I know all the people, all those older people, all the members, although some of the older members, they die by the rate of 5 to 10 each year, and I've lost many of those old folks. I can witness the changes of community, and I think I still have some capacity to contribute to the betterment of the community, and this just used as a kind of platform that I've been able to achieve other things, and it give me minimal wages so I can survive. Then I can engage in doing the London Marathon, the end-to-end walk. I can become a special police constable for 5 years in the year 2005 to 2007 until earlier this year. So being a special police constable, you assume the full duties of a police constable without pay. So it's quite demanding. But in the 5 years, at least, I stood up for the Chinese community here, because I always try to promote some civic duties and responsibilities, and said that the Chinese, they're not selfish. They really want to pay back to the community. They want to contribute more. They want to be seen, and they want to sacrifice their own time and also to contribute their expertise and their time to do it. So I try to be a trustee of many other organizations, and apart from all this, and being a special police constable. So my life is really full and busy, and I find sometimes perhaps when you are younger, you can cope. But now, when I'm approaching past the age of having freedom pass needed now, so I have to slow down a bit and try to refocus and have to have a better strategy of what I can contribute and what I can do for the community and for life, for the betterment of the Chinese and the wider community as a whole. So it's never stopping. It seems a life that is enjoyable, and it's something you think you can achieve, and you satisfy with what you are working.
And in terms of this centre, can you tell me anything about the other board members or committee members?
Islington Chinese Association, ICA, is really a liberal organization. We have our AGM, annual general meeting, annually, and until later when I become the chairman, I changed it to biannually, because I think 1 year is too short for those new trustees to stay in post and get familiarized themselves and to achieve something. We changed it to 2 years, and they can continue to stay on as a trustee without special limitation in the years that they can serve. So we have election, a quite genuine election, although for the Chinese community it's very difficult to get people to serve as trustees who are willing to give their time, expertise, and a little bit of money sometimes for the community as a whole. So I witnessed in the early years we just have most of the users, and our users are many from the new territories who are illiterate and who work in Chinese restaurant or in catering industry and doesn't have much knowledge about the community and doesn't aim high in their life in serving people, although they are very good in securing their own livelihood and the family's education and welfare, but on the whole, the lack of inspiration, aspiration. But we need those people sitting in as bodies in the trustee board. So I need to change to some students, probably from Hong Kong, who are doing the master or the postgraduate study. They can stay for a couple of years. They give quite a bit of advices or their contribution, but because they are floating population, that they will return one day to their own country, Malaysia, Hong Kong, whatever. So it's a lot of long-term plan for them to stay here and have a long-term plan and mission. And you can see younger entrepreneurs and younger people, they form as a mostly group to serve at the community. But because of the career life, most of them are very busy and they have their own professions of careers. Sometimes they cannot give their time to do it. So a lot of them, they give the name as a trustee, but rather than in action. So and see different phases or the changing of the management board. And at the moment, our chairman is an Englishman. He's a colonel. He got OBE. He was the Queen's representative for some 17 years in the borough of Islington. He was also a special police constable for some 30 years. So it's a very publicly minded Englishman. So he served our center. It helped us to establish ourselves within the borough of Islington, because everyone knows him and he knows everyone in the borough. And we have very strong patrons, which is very outstanding among all the charities. We got a Baroness Tan, the first Chinese lady from the Hong Kong Executive Council, and who became the Baroness Tan in the House of Lords, the first Chinese in the House of Lords, followed by Michael Chan, the late Michael Chan. And we also have QC Sherry Bred as our patron. We also have the Alderman, the former Mayor of City of London as our chairman. So we got three very distinguished people as our patron, as our chairman. And the others, we got accountants, we got business people, and we got retired civil servants, we got users, we got web designers. I think age-wise, it's more or less the same, but the background is changed very much from being Hong Kong Chinese new territories immigrants into professionals or into white-collar professionals, and I can see the gradual change, and hopefully we'll in the future we see more people from mainland China or from mainland China students. Many of them who might stay in this country become more active and involved with the Chinese communities and with the welfare trust in this country.
And how is the centre able to provide the services that it offers? Like what sources of funding do you have?
we got different fundings. Basically, it could come from the Borough of Islington, those sitting grants, and we also get it from those bigger grant-giving bodies. The Bridge House Estate, City Parochial, and now the City Gate, and this are the bigger one, and the smaller ones like Tudor Trust, the Lloyds Foundation, and there are some government grants like the Arts Council grant. We don't gear into that very much, and also the Awards for All and the Heritage grant and some of them, and also from other smaller grant-giving organizations like the Lloyds Bank Trust, and some local charity, very, very small ones like BBC Children in Need, and also later different things in the years. So, but most of them, there used to be annual grant, and later on they made it into biannual grant, and nowadays most of them they give a 3 years grant, but most of them they are time limited grants, and most of the grants they mostly contribute to the wages of the staff. So So for ICA, main concern is the premises. Although in the last 27 years we moved 3 times, but all in the N19 areas. This is one of the more deprived, the poorer parts of the Borough of Islington in N19. We're always here, but we move into a very tiny space to a bigger premises, and now we have this much bigger premises, but this is a church building. But at the moment, when we are renewing the lease, we still encounter quite a bit of difficulties, and we have to find for a permanent or longer-term solution for the premises. So, although we have been able to get people donated for £200,000 for our premises fund, but it's far from enough to buy any property because of the inflation and the huge demise of the property price. So, but we have 200,000 in reserve, and we try to do anything that can be secure for the long-term and semi-permanent running of the association. So we try all kind of things, and we mainly operate by part-timers and volunteers. So I think this is, when we got a crisis, it will become a challenge, and we're trying to make this challenge into opportunities to see how should we go further and work with other organizations, given new opportunities to work for the betterment of the community and for the people.
You mentioned that Islington Chinese Association has always been in a poor area, despite obviously Islington being quite a rich borough. Do you think that's an important link to have for a Chinese centre in this borough?
I think in each borough they have richer areas and poorer areas. It's the way of life in this country. And being in the N19 area does not mean that we just serve the N19 area. We are borough-wide, and also we see ourselves as a kind of a regional organization serving the most part of London, and even occasionally nationally. And many organizations from overseas, if they come to visit, they come to study what happened to older people or to the Chinese Community Center, they always come to us. So it seems they were doing more influence in a wider aspect. And we see ourselves as a base in Islington, but we are open up to all the users, Chinese and non-Chinese, and as more or less a regional or London-wise charity organization. And we are trying to be as liberal as possible, so we can have a lot of activities involve different nationalities, different religions, and different category of activities.
And you've been here a while, so can you tell us if it's changed quite a lot during that time that you've been here?
As I mentioned to you, I work mainly in the field of older people, and I see many of them pass away year by year, and also I can see the small progress of betterment of our community. I can see in 20 years ago, most of Chinese, they might have very limited places to go. Those community centers, they're not well established and they don't have the biggest space. A lot of people, they just go to the underground casinos operated by Chinese organizations in London Chinatown. At those times, there was still quite a lot. They go there to meet and have some food and meet people to get jobs, but they also involve pay mahjong and pai go at those moments. And all those places seems to be a bit of not compared to those in East London area, like the Fu Mun Chao era or those opium den, but you can see that it might be something that ordinary Chinese or ordinary people, they won't go there. It seems to be a very strange atmosphere there. So, and later on it changed that many people, they go to community center, they go to the hub and go for lunch, they go for a day trip, they go for overseas trips. At those times it's very popular because it's the only time they've been offered a chance to travel as a group, go to different places. They don't mind paying £5, £10, and it's very popular. And because it's led by Chinese community centers, by our volunteers and by ourselves, so people, they like it. So they all come as a kind of herd psychology because it has something to do with the background. Most of them, they are from the new territories of Hong Kong at those times. A lot of them are illiterate. A lot of them are older women. They've been here working hard for some 10, 20, 30 years in the catering industry or earlier in the laundry industry. So they really want to see the world, this country, so they come and join us. And they have their rustic side, and they do contribute £5 and £10 from time to time. And if one donate some money, the others, they will follow suit. It's very simple. If they come to one place, they all go. If they ran away, they all ran away. So it's kind of a herd psychology at that time. So together, they might not have high aspirations, but they give you the number when you go to fight for something with the council or with some charity. You said we got so many people, so indeed they were there. But nowadays, our membership, they come from different backgrounds. Some of them, they're retirees from other white-collar industry. Some of them, they are second immigrations from other overseas China communities, Malaysia, Singapore, Mauritius, Guyana, or even from Europe, Africa, Mexico, far and wide. And most of them, they speak some degree of English, and they are computer literate, and it's quite different from the previous memberships. So, and their needs will be very different. And all those from new territories, if they don't retire back to the villages in Hong Kong, they choose to stay here, and they will try to push their children to learn Chinese. So you can see the Saturday Chinese school or Sunday Chinese school, they pause from time to time, where all the older generation, they want them to learn some kind of Chinese civilization and don't forget their root. And that's their best wishes. And the children, normally, most of the Chinese students, they have no choice when they're younger. Before GCSE level, they all have to go to Saturday Sunday school. So all the Chinese kids, they go to school for 6 days instead of 5 days a week. And that's very much the norm. The Chinese school is still here, although it changes a lot. It becomes more Mandarin-orientated, simplified characters rather than Cantonese with traditional strokes. There are more cultural arts and dance in element there, and slightly different from before. And you have it in the curriculum, and you have it been taught at main schools. So you can see the needs been changed, and we have to cater for the changes. And so what we are doing now, we are emphasizing more living their life to full, life learning. We also encourage them on more healthy options, healthy and natural and cultural opportunities.
And what's the centres like? What's the centre's relationship like with other Chinese community centres in London?
We are deep rooted in the community. As Katie and I were both born and bred up in Hong Kong, so not from the walled villages. So we are from the city, but we have a very liberal view. We are educated from Catholic schools. Other than Swiss Catholic, I'm atheist, and I'm an activist. She's more like a lady. So we work with people. We engage very much with people, and especially Chinese and non-Chinese. So you can see our membership are multinational, and their background are very different. And we see M is always serving the lower-end users of the community. We don't have those middle class or those bourgeoisie people coming to our community, and very seldomly the community is segregated for those they are well off, they're rich and well educated, their own world, and the Western civilized literary world. And for us, we just meeting more of those ordinary people, working class people, daily people. For me, I have no problem because I'm from the same background regarding the generation. I never betrayed my background, so I live on very well with them. But as I said, I also have a high aspiration to integrate into this community and to tap into the services and meet the Chinese as equal parts of this metropolitan community, to give, to serve, and not to enjoy the glories. That's why I try to encourage enormously more people to get the national honour in UK. Whether they like it or not, whether it's colonial or not, is another matter. But I'm just trying to do every bit I can to try to promote, achieve what the Chinese they should get and should enjoy and should be honoured.
And you've served as a special constable yourself, but what is this centre's relationship like with the police and the council and other establishment bodies?
Chinese people are always very resilient, and we try to keep things to themselves, and they try not to go to the officials if they could avoid it. So unless there's trouble, they don't want to go to police, and they don't want to resort it to the legal profession. You know, it's expensive, it's costly. Although nowadays we don't have those trials as notorious as in other Asian countries, Far East Asian countries. You sort out things by yourself with your axe or your sword. We don't do it in this country, but we try to keep things quiet and down to earth, and we try to not to make any noises or voices That's why our needs are not heard. That's why we didn't get the support from the political muscle, and people think we're self-contained. We should leave you aside and you leave us aside. But in the long run, it got its good things and it got its bad things. Good thing is you never got too much racial harassment or racial discrimination to the extreme. Although you got some invisible one, you got some intangible one. There always racial tension, but we are not the kind of target the other people looking at. They always have the thing on the probably the Muslim, the Africans, the Bangladesh, the Indians, or the Irish people before us. We've been very different. We look at our things. I think the government mainly they have the policy to let the Chinese survive and give them a little bit and keep them at arm's length. If they're okay, they're okay. If they got some wise happiness, maybe in their community, if they're illegal immigrants, they got anything. If they're content with their own community, they keep a brown eye on it. Probably, I don't know whether it's true or not. I think sometimes it's better not to stir them up, let them live and survive. So being a police council, I didn't come across many Chinese cases, and it's been Chinese being in trouble, although there's some Vietnamese that growing marijuana, illegal drugs, and some Chinese that are selling DVDs and all this, but they're all, to a certain extent, they're selling DVDs or selling illegal tobaccos. They're petty crimes, which can be lead to major crimes, but still there are some petty stuff. So when I work as special police constable, I choose to work in Islington. So because I want to serve the community, the borough and the association here, so to set up and kind of a role model for the people in Islington to know that they got a Chinese special, maybe just the only one at those times, or one or two. So at least the council, they know Katie and I very well throughout these 20 years. And we too actually represent the Chinese community in Islington, which is not very healthy because no one is willing to attend any public meeting and any committee meetings and go to, or even become party members, or you can go into any council consultation, becoming school governors, becoming trustee. There are very few of them showing their interest or their input. So it has been quite an exhausting job for Katie and I, being the two symbols, and we really can't go to all kind of meetings, all kind of consultations, and all kind of banquets, receptions. So I mean, it's time for many more younger people, some who can speak some English. They don't have to speak fluent or excellent English, but at least if they can communicate, they should meet their ground to start. And we always try to get some new bloods. We're too old, but we can't have any more new blood to replace the old bloods, but we are still here.
And you mentioned sort of the discrimination that people might receive, whether it's something that you can see or if it's intangible. Have you ever experienced that yourself? And have you ever seen it around in Islington when you're a special constable in the centre?
Of course, it's very subtle. Yeah, it's subtle. People, they might misjudge of you, and they might just somehow you really, because unless you're born here, your first language is English. Somehow, being a new immigrant, you still got some language barrier, or although we got good education, there's so many slang and jargon we don't understand in different professions, and sometimes you feel you've been left out, and especially when you are volunteers, you don't know the inside out of the job, you don't know a lot of things to do, and people might not have the patience to tell you again and again and what what to do. Being a special police constable, you just do 2 to 4 shifts a month. But all the people, they do day in, day out with their overtime and they're paid to do the job. And they really don't have the time and have the patience to tell you what to do. Very often you're left on your own. And unless we intend to become a police constable ourselves, so we try to learn as much as we could. But we just have we just believe that we want to contribute as a lay person. We have other aspirations in life. We don't want to be a real police. Because in Hong Kong, I will not do it because it's a Royal Police Hong Kong force suppressing the people. I always think police is a kind of tool for the government. So, but in this case, because I'm not paid, so the psychological tension eased a lot, especially when the handing over of Hong Kong back to the Chinese. That kind of colonialism have been I watched it quite a bit, and I got an MBE when people just think that how could you, well, being anti-colonialism, you got a kind of MBE recognition, and you're anti-police, you work as a police, and you're Her Majesty's government, but you work as a civil servant. It seems a lot of things are contradictory, and I begin to feel that there's a lot of turns and twists in life. Sometimes you cannot control your fate or your life, but you have to act according to your conscience. You take the best course to work, and you don't owe people anything. You contribute what you can do. I think it make people happy, make yourself settled, and that's the way to move forward. So I'm happy, and I have spent a long time here in Nub, and although, well, people can do many other things, but I'm quite contented here to do my thing, to be a caretaker, to look after the community, the things, no matter how small and big. And it seems I lose a bit of a vigor or those hot temperament in injustice or inequality, because I don't think I have the energy or the power to overturn it overnight. Taking a more holistic approach and try to change bit by bit, and just to do what I can contribute to change it for the better and not the whole system. Although I try to become a politician, but still there's certain kind of hiccup, because they're not enough Chinese members. They're not, and we don't do enough to try to galvanize our support, because I'm just half-hearted politician. So although I founded Chinese for Labour, I never go in a particular ward and stay there for weekly meetings, monthly meetings, and for campaigns, day in, day out for a long time. I just come a paratroop into particular area, though I've been always Labour doing things. So in the last local election, year 2000, I was selected as a local candidate for a Hill Rise ward. So it was an unsafe ward, but I lived there before, so I stood for Labour Party. And from unsafe ward, we got one councillor back, one Labour councillor back, achieving the highest vote. And I got the 4th vote. We just missed about 40 votes, but I still got about 2,000 some votes, which is pretty high. And in this year, 2005 local council election, I really tried my best to try to get selected in my ward, the same ward. But unfortunately, I was not selected. Well, because we just don't have members to support me to be selected, because I didn't go to the meeting every week or every month. And I know there's a few Chinese members, but they Labour Party member in the ward. But one of them, they didn't go to the meeting. One of them, she doesn't speak any English. She was there for 5 minutes, but she didn't stay for the meeting and didn't vote for me. Although she might not vote for me, but at least she's Chinese. I asked her to go to there as a member to attend because it's her first time to be at a selection meeting, and she doesn't speak a word of English. So it's very difficult. Although we have a man to serve, try to get being selected and elected, there's still we need a lot of support from the community and a lot of groundwork to do it. So, and we're still very weak. So it doesn't mean that other candidates are no good or not good, but it just seems the Chinese, they're not a strong community, and they are not strong politically enough that the council, other people, they have to support you. They want you to have a Chinese councillor or a Chinese member of parliament because they don't see the political benefit out of it. You're so scantily live in the country. You just not enough vote. If they support you, they may lose. Although in marginal vote, you can contribute some votes. So we have to be clear about this. Unless more Chinese become involved and more actively getting into politics, which we should. We don't see a breakthrough in the political arena. We don't see we can have more say in local and national level. And also when we don't have any member of parliament from Chinese origin, but hopefully in the next election we will have at least 1 to 2. So it's a groundbreaking process. And in the House of Lords, but it's only a dressing house, so it really doesn't matter. Although after the death of late Michael Chan, we now got a kind of another lord appointed by the cronies of the coalition government, but it doesn't seem he's doing his job properly. So to some extent, it's very, very annoyed when we don't have very vocal and very supportive people in the House of Lords, including Baroness Dunn. She very seldom attend meetings.
And you spoke about how you try and make as small changes where you can and still drive forward where possible. So how do you think you'll approach that kind of attitude with the difficulties of the future of this centre might face?
I think all the organizations, they have their visions and they have the ups and downs. So all the Chinese organizations in this country, they are relatively short-lived, not a long history. Some of them, they might have 100 years history, but they're very much in a dormant state. And some of them, they might have a small property of itself, but it doesn't seem to have much activities going on from time to time. And we don't see too many political alliance or allegiance in all these organizations, although since after 1949, the communists, they become the People's Republic in China, and the Chinese embassy, they always try to influence the local Chinese organization to tote the party line of the Communist Party. And some of them they do, most of them they do, but there's still some organizations that become more community-based, they are more neutral. They just try to serve the people and work with the local government and the national government to promote the welfare of the people, and rather to allege their allegiance or their loyalty to China, because there is another level how you meet your the plan forward, your activities and your future plan, whether you get the support, where do you get it, and which direction you go in, and and what are you trying to promote? So I think that now we are all changing from time to time. And for this organization, this kind of Chinese Community Center, it just started about some 25 years ago when there's a space of our Chinese organization set up in different parts of the country. And now it's 25 years. Some of them, they're still managed by the same generation of people 25 years ago. And the staff very much with a few changes, they are still hanging on here for most of them working for more than 20 years. It seems to be a very aged institution, a very aged concept of how to run a Chinese community center. And it comes to a time that they should either audit the potentials, or either they merge together, or either they dissolve, and either they put their resources to better use, the gear for the future, rather than staying on like this. Because I can see a lot of organizations, community centers, they're struggling for survival, day-to-day survival, year-to-year survival, and don't have a longer plan and what they try to achieve. This is mainly due to the ageism of the trustees, of the workers, of the members, and unless you have some new blood and you have some new aspirations, it's very challenging.
So what's the response to that at Islington?
That's why we have our open membership to Chinese, non-Chinese people, and we don't have an age limit, and we try to organize activities for all backgrounds and all denominations, and very different genres of activities, from Tai Chi to traditional Chinese painting, calligraphy, to gentle exercise, Qigong. We got the Buddhists coming in and giving free lunch and doing charity work. We got the African church group coming. We got the anti-alcoholic groups, and we have our Hong Kong University Alumni Association coming in, and we got theatre groups like the True Heart Theatre, like the London Jin Kun Opera Association. They are very closely related, and we organize a lot of concerts. We're promoting concerts for those singers who like to sing, all those Royal College music students, because very often we offer free and very low cost venue where they can stage performances for the concerts, and also we give places for those kids where people they can during the formative year come down and practice and work at workshops. And we got Chinese school still, but a very contemporary Chinese school, kind of pay as you go, mainly give teaching in Chinese culture and language rather than the program that Chinese school as in the past. And we got Canada opera and all kind of things. And we got the Japanese, Korean and Chinese friendship night. Although occasionally the Chinese embassy, they try to get one or two programs to be organized by some amateur, some association here. And we are not resisting that. And although we also have some places where the democratic distance, they can come and meet here as a mayor and also at a press conference. So we are really open, and we are not really affected by politics, whether the Chinese politics or local politics. Although we are very much labor oriented, but we are also open to the Liberal Democrat, the Conservatives and coalition, anyone who can just come here and promote whatever they like legally and legitimately.
And moving on to your personal experience working here, can you describe a typical day for me?
every day is atypical. So apart from, I just see myself coming in as kind of how you cater to stabilize things here, kind of caretaking. Once I'm here, people say it's okay. Whether it's leaking, whether it's shortage or toilet rolls, or whether the gas doesn't work, or whether someone's ill, or we're going to see the funder, and whatever things, it comes to me. And whether they buy any ingredient, or how many people eating, and I feel I'm very settled here, and to a certain extent I'm housebound, and it seemed to be to a certain extent one person organization, one in it. Although we got Joe and Katie, but they're all part-timers. I'm part-time as well, so we just contribute all our time and everything in the coordination and the smooth running of the building and for different groups. And from time to time, I find it's sometimes too much. It's time engaging and tied down to nitty-gritties on the daily routines. But once we're here, we still have many vulnerable people coming here. And from time to time, they got mentally disturbed, stressed, paranoid schizophrenia, and some of them they desperate for the housing benefits reclaim, the debt, gambling debt, visa card problem, and some they need housing, shelter housing, and some all those people, if they come, they may have a money problem, a benefit problem, or the mental problem, and you may have to spend quite a lot of time trying to listen to them and try to settle in them and try to keep an eye on them, but then to make them accepted by the other participants, and let them accept it. And some of the cases you can see they settle in very well, and of course we interpret for them with those social worker, mental worker, we know who they are, but once we see them fitting in here, coming to lunch, playing table tennis, singing, and become quite a normal person. This is the achievement that we can do. We can help people. Although for us it seems a small step, is a little bit, but perhaps for them it's life-changing. It might rescue some person from the brink of depression or from disaster back to a normal life. I think if we have more patience and more abilities, and we can engage in more of these cases, and also in palliative care, when people they are dying, there's a lot of distress. There are a lot of things they have to deal with for the family, for themselves, how to get them prepared and how to get them sort things out. Because I'm not superstitious. I was a policeman. I saw dead people from time to time. I'm not afraid to go to hospital to visit those dying people. I live with cancer or all those things. But for a lot of people, they feel scared and they don't have the mentality, the maturity to handle all this. But for us, I feel this is part of the daily life, and I treat them quite calmly. So I think the help of maturity help to achieve something that other center they may just sweep off. They will ask them to go to bereavement services, or go to the council, or go to a funeral parlor to look for other alternative help. But we give them the language support, and because they know who we are here, and it also give them an easier way to handle things. And I can see we can solve quite a bit of crisis from time to time. And I think it may not seem to be a big thing, a major thing, but you got the opportunity to do something, you can help. I think I'm satisfied that we can do a little bit to help all these people, and I can see the changes in quite a bit of people for the years. Although most of them we might not be able to help, and it's very sad to see some of them, many of them wither away and disappear.
And where do you get this attitude and work ethic from, do you think?
From family. Well, because my mother always tells us when she was young, she always teaches us, if you receive any good thing from other people, you have to pay them for 10,000 pounds. As you said, 得人恩果千年記，得人花帶萬年香. It's always very vivid in my mind that we have to be grateful to whatever people are doing to you, and you should repay back if you could. And also it's partly from my secondary education from the Maris brothers. It's that education, you need to be good, and you have to serve the community. You have to serve community and people with integrity. So it's some of the St. Francis Xavier's boys should do. So I always think that the motto we should keep in mind to serve. And as I go from Hong Kong and here, and I found to a certain extent I'm very privileged. I got the opportunity to get into Hong Kong University from a very poor background with the Guan and Lung system. And without the Guan and Lung system, I doubt I will finish my university education. So at least it gave me an opportunity to study, and then return the money later on. And then somehow I've been working as a civil servant, which gave me a more reasonable wages for some time, so I can support my family. We are all Chinese or Far East Asian people, feel it as a kind of family duties and filial piety to alleviate the family burden. Although I may not have been done enough to have my sister, brother to get into a university education, because the whole family, I'm the only one who got a formal tertiary education. And I've been quite selfish and then to work and then get my MA and PhD, and to that extent it's selfishness, because I want to achieve my personal achievement academically or aspiration, but somehow I haven't been doing more enough for my own family, but always use an excuse of serving a wider community, so you leave behind your own family. But fortunately, I'm not married, so I don't have anyone complaining at home. Otherwise, it would have a nightmare. So this is something I feel grateful, and especially when I come here after 20 years. Somehow when I work in Birmingham, the chairman, they tried to apply for a work permit for me. But once I got the 4-year permit, I left Birmingham Chinese Community Center. It still said like you just take the work permit and might help you in the future. And at that time, I don't think it's a big deal. But everyone actually at that time just try to get a work permit, I guess it's some kind that you can work and stay in this country. And the situation remains the same here. I can see so many talented people, a lot of people, they cannot stay and choose a job and look for a better future because of the immigration status. And I think to a certain extent, if we have to do something to change the status for immigrants, for students, and for those talented and for those inspired people, disregard of their background or ages. Because I can see a lot of tragedies, a lot of unhappiness generated because of this immigration status immigrations. A lot of people, they try to get to stay here one way or the other by doing legal or illegal means and been sacrificing a lot of things that they will normally will not do. And it is very sad, but it is a reality. But we have to think hard, particularly about the illegal immigrants and about overstayers, about all these people, how we can help them. So to this is that I've been very privileged to get all my tertiary education, postgraduate education, publishing my poems. I got awards in Hong Kong as a poet, and I work as a journalist. I work as an arts administrator. I work in the travel industry. I work as a community worker. I work as a youth worker, housing officer, script writer for the television company, and I really did all the job that I really wanted to do when I was young. So I have little regret, although I couldn't be a councillor or MP, but I can support some other people to do it. So, well, whether I like it or not, I got the MBE, I got a doctorate, I got everything, and so I should not have much regrets, although I'm still single with our family here, with our house, with our car, and there's nothing to groan about.
So we've kind of talked about this, you kind of brought this up a little bit already, just stuff outside of the centre that you've been involved in. I'm just going to talk about that now as well. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the contributions outside this centre over the years, and the new groups that you're currently involved in right now? Apart from the scientists, most of them, they are still community-based, so we try to get involved with other regional organizations or local organizations, Citizen Advice Bureau, the Islington Healthy Council, and some local school governorship, and other interesting organizations like the Hong Kong University Alumni UK chapter, the Great Wall Society for Older Chinese People, which is a shelter housing scheme at Camden Road in the borough of Islington. And also I spent quite a bit of time starting the Chinese for Labour, which is to support the value and mission of the Labour Party. And we try to encourage more Chinese become politicians, to get involved with politics, and particularly to be a Labour Party candidate. So we used to have some councillors in the past, but we still haven't got any member of parliament in this country. And in this year we have 2 candidates being adopted as a parliamentary candidate who will fight for the general election, and hopefully if both of them elected, they can claim to be Chinese member of parliament, although they are only from Eurasian background, but still they're related. So these are groundbreaking things for the Chinese community in the United Kingdom, and apart from all other things, the center is busy enough, and because from the center you can work with all kind of people, all walk of life, all backgrounds, and you can engineering a lot of activities and other events up to different levels. So we've engaged with different funders. So already you're visionary enough, and you have a lot of energy and vision. You can start from one thing to other thing, like the Mulan Award for the Chinese women in this country. It just evolved from the Chinese for Labour organized the Mulan Awards. So it's another thing, and other
different groups related to Chinese community center, Chinese people, and unfortunately, most of them, people they just join them to be there, and they want to be seen rather than want to contribute something. And from time to time, we can see a lot of people, they got very bad reputation for Chinese organization, China fundraising for this and that. At the end, it never materialized, and all those funds, they might not be being abused or been laundered somehow. And some people, they just have been stuck in a position, but they're not doing anything, but they don't allow other people to do anything as well. So we can see all kinds of these organizations. We could be very downhearted or discouraged, and it's difficult to find the right people, right organization, and the right soil that you can work with.
Can you speak a little bit about the Chinese Solidarity Campaign and what it was?
Yeah, the Chinese Solidarity Campaign, we started in 1989 after the massacre of the Tiananmen student movement. I was doing my MA degree at that time in 1989, so I was the first one of my mates to start sleep in outside the Chinese embassy before the martial law being imposed. I stayed there for 3 nights under the porch of the Chinese embassy at Portland's place, and I wrote a poem about this. And after that, it came the martial law imposed, and then came the June 4 massacre. And after that, we formed the Chinese Solidarity Campaign. It's a democratic-based activist organization formed of many Chinese, but involving non-Chinese people to promote and support democracy, human rights in China, and also to try to ratify what happened in Tiananmen massacre, Tiananmen student movement, as the right way of moving forward. So at the moment, it still survives with one member, and that's me. And every year on, we still go to the China embassy on the evening of June 4 and to do a video with other organizations. And during last year's Olympics, I was also commissioned with the photography gallery as the one doing a picture representing Hong Kong, with the picture taken at the protest scene of the June 4th or the Tiananmen anniversary at Portland Place here. So you can see the picture there, I think. So it was my commission by the Olympics. They got one person representing each place all over the world, or countries who come to represent in the Olympic Games, about 108 of them. So I represent Hong Kong. I volunteer to be a representative, and I want to bring out the Tiananmen and the democracy event.
Can you speak a little bit as well about the Great Wall Society and your involvement?
Great Society is founded by a group of community workers, social workers. One of them is Shupu Lim, MBE, and we have Patricia Bradbury and Aaron Murphy, a lot of non-Chinese people who are very familiar with the housing corporation and housing association events. It was some 20 odd years when we set up, have 8 units bedrooms, not self-contained bedrooms in a Victorian house at Camden Road N7 here. And since day one, I stayed there to be a caretaker when it became formally receiving the tenant. And then I am still the secretary of the society for a long time, some 20 years. And at the moment, we have all those over certain age, 60 or 70 years old, who are able to look after themselves to live there. It's full house at the moment. So it's the only kind of Chinese child housing run by Chinese, with Chinese warden and with Chinese meal provided. And in London, it's not an HR care or nursing home, it's a child housing. And like this kind of organizations, I can see a lot of the councils, they can also provide child housing for different people, and they might provide more spacious or a more independent living spaces for them. Well, for Great Wall, it's just a small room, and the spaces are quite limited, and there are staircases in the front, and they don't have a lift. Due to the nature of it's a Victorian old house, and it's small, so probably we have to find a way, try to make it into a HR care or nursing home establishment, and we might have to get some new funding or work with other organizations to make it move one step forward rather than staying as a shelter housing, which the need can be catered or looked after by the local council or other housing associations. So there are challenges here.
And do you think it's important that, with the Great Wall Society and having separate Chinese centres, is there something important about providing a Chinese care home or a housing for the elderly people?
It can be integrated to a certain extent because with the establishment of Great Wall, ICA, we provide meals on a wheel for the last 17 years to them. We provide one meal for the lunch for them, and we're also doing the prevention scheme to the residents at the moment. And the Great Wall Board, they also asked the Camden Chinese Community Centre to manage and operate on their behalf at the moment. We have a contract to look after the welfare of the residents. So, but I think Great Wall Society is kind of a shelter housing scheme. It assists its vision and its potential, how to be more specified in the housing needs of the Chinese and try to work one step further to provide nursing home or HR care services for them to move on. And the Chinese community, they gave a kind of support, befriending, counseling, advice, and benefit. To a certain extent, it can be integrated, but it's very, very different setup. So I think they can be supported by housing, by community centers, but I think Great Wall have to, well, my opinion is to be independently audited for its needs and to review its best potential and how to move forward from shelter housing to nursing home or HR care for the Chinese community, because we still need that in London. We haven't got a Chinese nursing home or HR care home. So,
and you seem to be very politically motivated, include stuff outside the establishment and including stuff in the establishment. So can you tell us, as a Chinese person in this country, how has been going through your time in the Labour Party and trying to become a councillor? What's that experience been like for you?
To be a politician, you have a certain abilities. You have to speak to people, you have to be a people's person, you have to understand things well and understand people well, and you're able to speak and to talk to convince people. But more than that, you should have your ideology, your vision, and your ability to engage with people and spend your time and energy in doing so. And different parties have slightly different setup, and each person have a different path. Some may have a lot of money to buy votes, some may have a lot of their assistants and a team of workers to help themselves. But for ordinary activists, you just have your own mouth, your word, and your limited time. You have to know the way whether you become independent or join a particular party, whether you adhere to the principle and vision of that party, and whether you get the support from some of the leaders, some of the allies, and where you go from different ward, different region, because like example of the Labour Party, you have wards. All the local Labour candidates, they're elected by the ward members or the party members. So you have to be there and to be recognized and be selected. Firstly, shortlisted by the General Committee, and then to be selected by a particular ward. Even you're very good at the ward members, they just like particular neighbors or particular people befriended them, so you won't have a chance to be selected. And as the nature of it is very territorial, just like all the Chinese community. It's sometimes who knows who, rather than you got the ability or you got the potential to do things. But there could be exception. Different party like the conservative can always paratroop someone, paratroop a young lawyer, or distinguished writer someone to his particular constituents. There are things like this, and you talk about in Edinburgh, you have the most wicked try to get someone into constituents. There are all different ways, but you can think it's a kind of service to people. Being a councillor is a thankless task. You contribute all your time, you lose all your privacy, and it's a 24-hour job, and you don't get much reward for that. The allowance is pretty small, unless you are in power. You got your cabinet, and you got a moderate wages to be in the cabinet. But politics is a very treacherous trade. You might not be elected after 3 or 4 years, and you lose everything. You have to start from scratch. So it's not always for the most talented. It's for those talented who are engaged in serving the community, serving the country, and have certain ideology, and who are ready to work hard. Also depends on the opportunity. Somehow you get it, sometimes you don't get it. Even if you are in a very strong political party, you might not get selected. It just changes in election. So I try my best. So once I try my best, whether I be there or not, is I done the process. Although the end result is not as pleasing or as expected, but I look at it more philosophically as a blessing in disguise. Then I can contribute more in the community. I can enjoy more of my life. I may go back to literature reading and writing, and there's so many things to do. If you can't do this, then just go to do another thing or support other people to become councillor, become a member of parliament. So I just feel if no one's going to do it, I'm doing that. But if I can't do it, well, that's kind of fate. But at least I hope in the process I can influence people and can demonstrate that someone is trying, so people know that the Chinese community and people, they are not all of them are selfish. There's still some people that are willing to come out.
And you spoke earlier about immigration. What is your opinion on UKBA fishing raids that happened in Chinatown recently, and the recent protests which was sparked in response to it?
I think it happened to all trades of organizations. You can't employ illegal workers, you can't. And just like you can't cheat VAT, you shouldn't. But whether Chinese or Indian or English or whoever, though many of them cheat on VAT, so if they're being caught, they're being caught. If they are not, they're not. I mean, some people, they try to use illegal immigrants because they're cheaper, not necessarily because they cannot find any resources. Finding some Chinese worker might be, but you can have non-Chinese workers. I see some Nepalese, some African people, or some East Asian people. They serve in Chinese restaurant. They still can do the job, and probably they can learn the trade. And even for Japanese restaurant, not all of them are run by Japanese. One of them, a lot of them are Chinese and Malaysian. They just look like Japanese, but you can recognize they are not. And I mean, you need some training. You have some to buy more workers. But on the other hand, it's about the legal requirements. If the UK, there's so many illegal immigrants. There's so many back market workers here, overstay, whatever. I think amnesty might not be a bad thing for the government, because England is always a place with opportunity. A lot of people come here because they're stable, we have a welfare system, we have a good education, and a lot of people, they want the descendants to live in this country. Although England is not too big, but it's not unlike America, where all the people, they flock there. And like the continent, they also have a lot of illegal immigrant problems. And I think they have to have a full review of the immigrant system and try to stop illegal people coming in, but they have tried to legalize who was already in this country in order to limit some people. They will not be deprived or to be discriminated against for whatever reason they are here. Although you can do it case by case.
And finally, congratulations on receiving your MBE in 2012. How does it feel to have your contributions to the community recognised? Because I know earlier you mentioned what you refer to as contradictions, and receiving an MBE from what you also described as colonial state. So how do you think?
I think getting a kind of national honor is really for the organization and for the community. And in that sense, if we can promote more role models in community, it can achieve its aims and objectives. Otherwise, I don't have some big fuss in it. In life, I think the doctorate is the most important thing. I really struggle hard and work hard on the doctorate, which I always aim to a higher academic achievement. Because the MBE or OBE, CBE or year or naval is something a bonus. But at least you have a longer tail, and you can help people to be a referees and do things on that. I'm happy to do that without charging anyone, because there are a lot of people applying for references to get job, to get their passport renewal, to get this and that, and I'm happy to do it. I don't know if it helps or not. Perhaps it helps a little bit with a longer tail and doctorate, and that's it. Yeah.
That's all the questions I have for you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think I got another meeting waiting for me. Thank you very much.